show of your Dallas Cowboys, brought to you by Pepsi, made for Cowboys watching. 877-881-1053, the number to call, the number to text, 877-881-1053. As we go ahead and break this one all down, a lot to get into, Brian, but I got to say, I am absolutely gutted by the way this one turned out, and the Cowboys certainly, defensively, you played well enough to win. They had opportunities, but you cannot make the mistakes that your quarterback made. You cannot not capitalize on opportunities such as an interception that Trayvon Diggs dropped.
Yeah.
Other moments in this game against a team that is as good as the 49ers are on the road.
Yeah, and that was going into the game. You knew there were things that you were going to have to be ready for, and I think they were ready for the 49ers run game. And I know in the second half it didn't appear because they were kind of chipping away at you. But Christian McCaffrey, I thought he was going to really, really hurt you in this game, and he didn't. And the guy that hurt you the most was George Kittle. And the Cowboys, that's going in. You're kind of thinking, well, the Cowboys have done a really nice job of playing against tight ends all year long. Mm-hmm. So you're thinking, maybe that's a matchup that you'll be okay. Was, Curse compromised with the knee? I don't know. I mean, I wasn't at the game. I know he was out there playing. Wilson. They just didn't do a good enough job of trying to. When he made the tip ball catch, it just appeared that everything was now going in. You felt like, okay, here's the momentum now standing on. The San Francisco side. You mentioned, with the thing, they get a tip ball down on the goal line. What happens last week on the goal line? They get the interception from Curse.
Sure.
Which kills a drive. This time you get a opportunity, ball down on the goal line, tipped. Barr does a great job getting it tipped, and now you drop it. And that's the difference right there. Somehow, some way, you make that play. You gave them the ball twice on, two really questionable, when you talk about balls bouncing off guys, reads and things like that, there'll be plenty of time to, break down exactly what Dak did in this football game. But I kind of felt like, though, that to me, there was some missed opportunities along the way for you to do some good things and make this a lot different game. And you just couldn't take advantage of it. And I've said this all along. It's a team that hates prosperity, and when they get a big return or they get the opportunity, they miss the extra point.
Yeah.
I mean, it just, you're just, the margin of error for this team is really so small.
Especially in the postseason.
So small right now. And that's, you had some guys in this game that, honestly didn't show up for you. And, and unfortunately, too, you got Tony Pollard injured as well, and that was a tough break.
Huge loss. Tony Pollard getting a high ankle sprain right before the end of the first half, had to be carted out, was out the remainder of the game, and you could really see how that impacted the offense. Outside of CeeDee Lamb, you really just didn't have many playmakers in this one. You had CeeDee Lamb, who was brilliant, 10 catches, 117 yards on 13 targets. And then you had Dalton Schultz with some garbage time catches. He did have the lone touchdown in this game for the Cowboys. But Michael Gallup, we got a missing persons order out for him.
Yeah.
He did have that opportunity where he beats Ward late in the game.
Ball's
3
not
minutes
there.
left.
Yeah.
Dak, maybe some pressure in his face, but still just not an accurate ball. Didn't give Gallup an opportunity. T.Y. Hilton, only 1 target, 1 catch for 15 yards. You could really just see once Pollard exited the game, it was all on CeeDee Lamb.
Sure.
And there just weren't enough weapons offensively for the Cowboys.
No, it really wasn't. And, I could say defense, I think defense did the best they could under the circumstance. I think, like you mentioned, the unfortunate thing is you have I talk about the missed interception from Diggs. I thought that was a big play. The next play, you get a sack for -6, and then you get Wilson gets defensive holding. Who's it on? Kittle.
Right.
So that's
he was huge.
That's a tough thing. I mean, you get the sack to hold them to a field goal, and it doesn't pan out for you that way. I mean, the margin of error for the Cowboys last Monday night was, it was pretty wide.
Yeah.
I mean, they did a great job. And I felt like the defense did play well enough to keep San Francisco at 19 points. I think says a lot about the defense. I think your offense no-showed it today. But San Francisco's defense will make you no-show it.
Oh, absolutely. They're the best defense in football for a reason.
They tackle well. They get the balls. They create turnovers. And they were able to make you have to pay for those.
877-881-1053, the number to call, the number to text. We will hear from you. We'll hear from Mike McCarthy, Dak Prescott, Brad Chamber. Right now, let's pause 10 seconds for station identification across the Dallas Cowboys radio network.
Your turn it on, leave it on. Home of America's team is 105.3 The Fan.
Tolo, baby.
KRLD FM and HD1, Dallas-Fort Worth.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Zach Wolchuk, Brian Broaddus, 19-12. San Francisco ends the Cowboys season at Levi Stadium as they advance to take on the Eagles in the NFC Championship game. Appreciate you watching us on Twitch and on YouTube in the final post-game show here of the season, as that's rather heartbreaking to say. We are getting a lot of texts, hey, who's to blame? There's a lot of different plays, a lot of different factors that go into it. I will say this. And I've defended the quarterback numerous times. When you are in a playoff game, and we've seen this from Joe Burrow today, we've seen it throughout Tom Brady's career, you name the quarterback, it does fall on the shoulders of the quarterback to elevate the team in certain moments. And now we are sitting here against a 49ers team where in back-to-back years, your quarterback has had an opportunity to lead a drive to either win the game or at the very least tie the game. And he has been incapable of doing so. Is it fair to put that all on his shoulders? I don't know, but I am going to do so. As somebody who wants that guy to be the guy more than anything, because I think he is an incredible human being. He's everything you want in a leader and a person. But I do think it is very fair to question at this time the way that this game ended, if he is good enough to get this team to the next level. Because today, the inconsistency was too much to overcome. And the two interceptions that he had were absolutely inexcusable. And your quarterback did not play well enough to win. And I think he is, number one, responsible as to why you lost this football game.
Kind of look at it as, Monday night, best game he's ever played. So that gives you that hope that, that's something you can build on. I think the thing that with Dak, it's the inconsistency. It's the week to week. It's when this team is really, really rolling offensively, he doesn't turn the ball over, and we saw it Monday night. But tonight it was the two turnovers, didn't help. I mean, you're literally driving the ball on the second interception, and you're probably looking at points right there. Now we'll see if the field goal kicker, but you're driving it, and all of a sudden, and that's kind of what we've seen from him this year. We've seen when it's the opportunity to get those points, especially before half, and you're trying to double dip that thing. You're trying to get points and then take the ball and start the second half and do the same thing. But here you go. You miss the opportunity. You don't get points, and they turn it into points. So I think it's clear that this team needs help in several different areas. I don't think I look at what's going on at wide receiver. Now you've paid Michael Gallup to play. Now whether Michael Gallup is confident enough right now. I mean, he played well enough on Monday night, So that again, that's the thing that kind of drives me, kind of makes me feel like, wait a minute, is it this or is it that? And I don't know. I really, really don't know. I don't know if you can completely put this one on the quarterback, but the turnovers are not good. And if he's not going to be able, he saw the field great on Monday night. What happened tonight? He didn't see the field as good. And he's fortunate that, he didn't have a couple more interceptions, the balls that were clanging off guys and stuff like that. That's been a little bit of his problem. But they couldn't run the ball when Pollard went out. And, it was tough. It was tough. They were going to have to try and run it a little bit. But just this defense just really kind of just choked you in this game.
Yeah,
Absolutely. They choked the run. They choked the pass. I mean, they didn't give you anything. They didn't let even though Lamb, and that just shows you how good CeeDee Lamb is.
Oh, man, CeeDee was so good.
Yeah, it just shows you how good he is, but you really didn't have anything else to kind of hang your hat on. And the quarterback, sure, he wasn't good enough today, but like I said, there's plenty of guys in that roster on the offensive side of the ball that weren't good enough as well.
Absolutely, and no question. And you look
but
at
I understand your questioning of the quarterback.
Yeah,
I do.
I've been someone that has been a Dak defender. I want him to be the guy, but I think that it's fair to question that, because in these moments, in these games, oftentimes in the postseason, it comes down to the play of your quarterback. That's what elevates you to being a great team.
Yeah,
and you had various moments in this game where, okay, it's hanging in the balance. Go be better than Brock Purdy, the rookie on the other side. And it's not like Brock Purdy had to be special by any means in this game.
No, he wasn't great.
Right, their offensive line kind of took over and wore down the Cowboys defense, and they were able to run the football effectively late in the fourth quarter. But Brock Purdy didn't have 2 interceptions. Now, granted, yes, Trayvon Diggs did drop one, but how many did Dak also have dropped today?
Yeah,
he had a pick 6 that was dropped right before the end of the game.
He had probably 3 interceptions that could have been, that weren't. But they weren't interceptions, but they were potential. I totally get what you're saying about Dak. I just wonder, I wonder if they're going to look at this and say, is this the man? Because Monday night again in a playoff game against the greatest quarterback ever to play the game,
and he was great.
But
it's the consistency that's the issue.
That's the issue.
You don't know what you're getting week to week. And I know exactly what I'm getting from a Joe Burrow every week.
Well, Joe Burrow was first overall pick,
right? But that's what you need.
Oh, okay. But so you have to be willing to. And I'm not trying to slam you here.
No, I'm just trying to have the conversation. It's the end of the year now.
Yeah, I wonder if this is going to be one of those games where they look back, or the season look back and say that they need to change the coordinator. Because I'm with you there. I don't think they're particularly looking at, because I don't think financially they're looking at Dak Prescott. To me, now the evaluation is there somebody else that can help you with that?
Sure.
Is there another? Again, the play caller was really good on Monday night.
It was great on Monday night.
But but you needed this defense. I just think this defense, we went in talking about it. If you could block the front and you could make plays.
Yeah.
They didn't make enough plays. The receivers, other than CeeDee Lamb, the receivers didn't make enough plays. And, either that, or when we watch the All-22, probably see that Dak probably missed a throw or two that he made Monday night.
Yeah. No, I mean, there was the play that stands out to me. I think it was after. It might have been the same drive. I might be mistaken on this. I need to go back and look at the play-by-play. But I think it was the same drive after the big CeeDee Lamb play, and he tries to hit CeeDee again, where it ended up being he tries to attack Fred Warner on the seam, and Warner makes a really good play in coverage. And he had T.Y. Hilton in the slot on the opposite seam, who was wide open.
Yeah, and if you notice when they went to the sidelines, like T.Y. walked over to him like, "Bro, can you But that's what happens when you get so one dimensional. When it turns into you don't feel like anybody else can make a play out there.
Yeah.
What are you doing? You're throwing to the guy who had 10 catches.
Yeah, you're throwing to the guy you trust, and that's fair. And it's always easy to be a quarterback from our perspective, not on the field, dealing with pressure in your face. Totally easy to criticize from our chair where we're standing. But, these are the things that these plays, it comes down to 1 or 2 plays in a postseason game to moving on to the next round or going home. And that's what our job is to criticize and to question some of these things. And I think it's really compounding now. It's becoming too often that I'm having to sit here and try and defend the quarterback, and now it's the faith just isn't being rewarded. And it's getting to the point where I can't do it, and I also just didn't, in my gut, in my heart, did I have faith, if I'm being honest with myself and I'm being honest as a fan to the listener, 3 minutes to go.
Yeah.
Cowboys get the football. Did I believe our guy was going to go down the field and get that touchdown?
I don't think you did.
The answer was no.
Yeah.
The answer was no.
And also begs the question why you punted the ball right before the 2-minute warning. You know, that situation. You didn't go for
the clock management was. Yeah, I'm sure that they'll ask Coach McCarthy about that. We'll hear from Coach McCarthy coming up here shortly. Everything told you to go for it instead of punting, and I get it. Look, you're backed up towards your own end zone. My goodness, there was interesting clock management questions that you can have. I'm with you on Kellen Moore. It's very frustrating because there's times like last week, Kellen Moore deserved all the credit in the world. He was fantastic, but you and I both go back and watch the All-22 every week. We've talked about this on the postgame show as well. Some weeks, it's like, I don't see any continuity with the Cowboys' game plan offensively. Some week, they're running 13 personnel, 12 personnel. Other weeks, they go away completely from the tight ends. One week, they're using pre-snap motion. They're moving CeeDee Lamb around. They're moving Tony Pollard around. Next week, they're completely stagnant. I don't know where the consistency is necessarily with Kellen Moore's play calling. So if the suggestion is, let's get some freshness, some newness with an offensive coordinator, I'm not opposed to it.
Sure. And I think that's the evaluation that you have to look at the now that the season has ended. We'll hear Mike McCarthy players talk about the season, and they'll fly home, and you'll have your exit interviews, the green trash bag day, everybody packs their stuff, and then we'll hear the coaches will start Mike McCarthy will meet with Jerry Jones, Steven, and Will, and kind of figure out is this the direction they continually want to go. He's got Brian Schottenheimer in the building, and I know he really, really likes Brian Schottenheimer. And so, Kellen Moore is going to get, there's a possibility you could lose Dan Quinn. So this is going to be an interesting offseason for the Dallas Cowboys as this thing draws to a close.
And man, that's another talking point. Where do you go with Dan Quinn? Dan Quinn's got the opportunities with the interviews with the Cardinals, the Colts, the Broncos. Teams are, he's a hot commodity. I thought Dan Quinn did an excellent job, especially early in this game. That was a big question for me. Last year's match, we saw Kyle Shanahan really take it to Dan Quinn. 49ers jumped out. They were red hot. Cowboys were playing from behind. This year, Cowboys defense came to play, man. Dan Quinn was ready for it, but you saw they did get worn down. Maybe that was more fatigue. You saw the offensive line really settle in, play well for San Francisco. I don't know how much you can really criticize DQ necessarily for that, but you might be having to replace the defensive coordinator once he gets a head coaching job as well.
Dan Quinn and that defense, the offense gave the ball to San Francisco on the Dallas 21. They got a field goal out of it. The next interception, they gave the ball on the San Francisco 28 that ended up in a field goal. That just shows you right there, to me, chance to get points on the San Francisco 28, and then you give up points, on your own end of the field. But the defense did a great job of holding that down to field goals. The first 5 drives were punt, field goal, and then a punt. It wasn't until they got till the fourth quarter that really the defense started to show a little wear and tear.
Yeah. And the pass rush was there. I thought Tank made some really excellent plays.
Tank was good in this game. I don't think you were as good with Van Der Esch and Barr and those guys as I thought that you were going to need it. You needed those guys to play really, really big in this game. And I think there were a couple of times there, especially where Barr and Van Der Esch both were locked on some blocks and just couldn't get to where they needed to be.
But Brian, I'll say this: if before this game, I were to say this Cowboys
19 points,
or just this, they hold Christian McCaffrey to 35 yards rushing and 22 yards receiving.
Absolutely,
Cowboys win.
Yeah, absolutely.
They did their job.
Yeah, I totally. I have no problem with the way the defense played tonight. I really, really don't. I know they got wore down a little bit there in the fourth, but the offense really just could not keep it. As great as the offense was on Monday night, it was struggling badly today.
All right, we'll hear from Coach McCarthy. We'll hear from you, 877-881-1053. A heartbreaking loss yet again in the divisional round, 19-12, as the 49ers end the Cowboys season. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Prescott under center. It's an I right formation. He will keep it, roll right, throw it underneath. Schultz at the 1, and he walks in. Touchdown, Dallas.
There you go. There was the Cowboys' lone touchdown of the game. It was Dalton Schultz. Now, Dalton today had 5 catches, 27 yards, and a touchdown. Now, most of those came in that final drive for the Cowboys. They also had one of the strangest plays you'll ever see to end a football game. And I chuckle because really, I don't have a good reaction to what we witnessed there at the end. You had Ezekiel Elliott. It's like an old 7-on-7 flag football game. Let's have the running back, snap it back to the quarterback. He gets completely obliterated. Then let's just throw it over the middle, and it goes absolutely nowhere. I don't know who drew that up, whether it was McCarthy or Kellen Moore, but that was disgraceful. That plus the 3-and-out the drive before make you just want to throw up straight into your mouth. But 19-12 is the final as the 49ers advance, and the Cowboys fail to reach the NFC title game for now 27 years in a row. Zach Wolchuk and Brian Broaddus hanging out with you. We will get to your calls and texts, 877-881-1053. But we will now hear from Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy, who caught up with the media following this 19-12 divisional round playoff defeat.
Calvin Watkins, Dallas members. Mike, just your thoughts on how the defense played overall?
I think really as a whole today, you had 2 teams just battling out. We knew it was going to be a slugfest, and we just didn't quite do enough. I mean, it's you can go through the statistics, the decisions, and I thought defensively, we did a really good job, for the most part. But yeah, would we like to have a couple more stops? Yes. We need more third down conversions on offense? Yes. We could have used that to red zone production. So obviously just extremely disappointed. This has been an incredible journey, with this group of men, and we came up short tonight to a very good football team.
Mike Towers with ESPN. How backbreaking was that back-to-back plays where you lose Pollard and then you have the pick on the next play?
Well, I mean, losing Tony was obviously a shot. Tony is probably clearly one of our most, if not the most productive player. In Tony's and Zeke. The way we play is all year. It's important for those guys to touch the football. So yeah, that was a big blow for us.
Tim Cowshaw, Dallas Morning News. We've talked about Dak's interceptions all year. Some of them aren't his fault, but the 2 today, in this high note scoring.
Well, I mean, any turnover was big. No different than our takeaway there on the punt. But yeah, scoring position. Obviously, that's points, potential points on the board. We knew the turnover ratio was going to be huge in today's contest. We thought we'd have some opportunities. Was the plan. We got our hands on some balls. But yeah, you can't turn the ball over. That's always a focus, and that's all I got.
Edward or ESPN. Mike, is it hard in the moment with the season just ending to feel any sense of improvement this year over last? Do you feel like you played them better than you did a year ago? You walk away from this game feeling any differently?
Yeah, I don't really. I think every year is different. Every game is totally different. Factually, we've taken one step closer to our goal. That's what a comparable would be from last year to this year. I think they're a different team than they were last year. I think they're a better team than they were last year. I said this earlier in the week. I thought we're a better team than we were last year. So I think it's probably a reflection of a lot of respect for their program, but I think it's also a reflection of our program. We got the right players. We got a good group of young players. We got excellent veteran leadership. We didn't have enough today. And the guys laid it out there. I don't know how close you were to the field. It was an extremely physical football game. Both teams laid it out there, so we came up short.
Mike, how difficult was it to get going offensively when you lost Tony?
Well, it's Tony's an exceptional player. And he's obviously part of our rotation. You spend the whole week, putting the plan together, and also you have, touches and, ball distribution focal points that you're trying to hit. So, I mean, and definitely Tony's one of the top, or maybe the top, ball person that you want the guy, you want it in his hands. So yeah, that was definitely a shot for us.
Follow-up, Diggs had a chance to get a pick there, he dropped one, and Kittle had a bobble. I don't know if you think Diggs should have played the ball or hit Kittle. What were you seeing there?
Yeah, specific evaluation. We're not there right now, but we felt that we were going to be able to get our hands on the ball just because of the way we play on defense, and our takeaways for the season speak for themselves. And we had some chances tonight, so we could, like I said, we came up a few plays short in the big play area.
Brett Meyer missed that extra point earlier. How much did that impact the decision you made, calling plays later on in the first half? You shunned the field goal on 4th and 35 in the first half. I don't know if that impacted anything.
Yeah, I don't know where we're going here. I thought that I went for it on 4th downs that I've gone on all year. There's I'm trying to give you an honest answer. I don't remember sitting there changing plays based off what happened last week. That didn't happen. So
he missed one early in the start of the game.
Yeah, definitely. But then the next time we had the opportunity, we lined him up and he kicked it through. So in the reality of it, when we got the ball back, obviously next to the last series, the plan was to go down and score and go for 2 for the win. So I mean that was the thought process, but that had more to do with, I just felt like our defense was on the field a long time. And, I thought we picked it up in certain areas in the second half, but like I said, we just came up short.
Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy, brought to you by WinStar World Casinos and Resorts, home to over 8,500 of your favorite electronic games, more than 1,000 table game seats, and 1,400 luxury hotel rooms. It's always a good time at WinStar World Casino and Resort, the casino of the Dallas Cowboys, as he spoke after a 19-12 defeat to the San Francisco 49ers. Interesting, he did say if the Cowboys had gone on to score when they got the ball back in the final 3 minutes, or even in that final drive with under a minute left, they would have gone for 2 for the win, which I think a lot of people were wondering about. I know a lot of people on Twitter were asking us, hey, will they kick the extra point? Will they go for 2? He said less about Brett Maher there, though, more about the defense, just gas. And you could really tell, and credit to the 49ers there, their offensive line really kind of took over the game, but the defense definitely did start to get worn down there in the second half.
They did. They just, Dallas, you just could not continue to sustain drives, and, you weren't getting any points. And so you kind of put your defense into some harm's way. But, and I'm always super critical of Mike when it comes to our coaches in general, knowing the condition of their team. Obviously he felt like if they had gotten that touchdown that they were going to go try and win that game right there, right now. And, that's cool because, again, you get in a situation where you have to put your defense out there. And we know with the overtime rules, the way they are, you get a possession, they get a possession, and, who knows what happens from there. So I would have been on board. You find a way to score, go for 2. You probably had a pretty good play, probably had them on their heels a little bit there at that point in time, but just never really could get in. It just seemed like that every ball, every throw, every run was just, contested. It's almost like the 49ers had 13 guys on the field.
Boy, do they tackle well.
And that's the thing about it is they tackle super well. And I think some of the questions that Clarence and Calvin and those guys were asking, the Diggs, the Kittle play down the field where he was tipping the ball. Diggs did kind of a flyby, like if you're defending the
throws his shoulder in there.
You're doing a little flyby there, like you're defending a 3-point shot, and maybe if you collide, make a collision there, it's probably bad for both guys. But you got to try and knock that ball loose if you can, and
then you drop the interception,
and then he dropped the interception. But that's one of several plays that Dallas in this game just weren't able to take advantage of.
No question. 7 penalties for 50 yards in this game for the Cowboys. A couple of those came on a long sustaining drive in that fourth quarter that ultimately put the 49ers ahead 19-12 as well. And then the Cowboys, who had been so good on third down for the majority of this season, just 5 of 15 as well today. And a lot of that has to do with, the 49ers defense as a whole. But, this Cowboys offense missing Tony Pollard in the second half, I think was huge. He talked about that. I think some fans have also talked on the text and via social media as well. Maybe why not use a little bit more Malik Davis? Could have been, hey, a rookie in that situation in the playoffs. You have Ezekiel Elliott, but, Zeke averaging 2.6 yards. He was tough sledding out there, but it did seem like these holes, whenever the offensive line opened them, if you don't hit that hole and you don't have burst, that thing's going to close up on you.
It is amazing how quickly that they get to a ball, and especially that front seven. And, you're in a situation, too, where I didn't feel like that Nick Bosa killed you in this game. I felt like, to me, when, there was opportunities to make some throws, I thought the protection held up well enough at times, but you're right. This defense, this front seven, the way that they play, and I tell you, it's pretty impressive. What D'Amico Ryans is able to do with that crew, and they'll get an opportunity to go play a very good Philadelphia Eagle team next week in Philadelphia.
We will hear from you, your calls, your texts, 877-881-1053. We got the voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham, plus owner, general manager Jerry Jones. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
Purdy in the gun. Will fake to give it to McCaffrey. Driving to the right side. Touchdown 49ers.
Woo! The go-ahead score there from Christian McCaffrey as the Niners knock off the Cowboys 19-12. The official postgame show of the Cowboys. Zach Wolchuk, Brian Broaddus with you. 877-881-1053. The number to call, the number to text. We'll get to the phone lines here in just a moment. But now let's go out to Levi Stadium. And joining us, the voice of your Cowboys, the man, the myth, the legend, the great Brad Sham. And Brad, the loss of Tony Pollard, Brian and I have been talking about that. Certainly a big impact, and CeeDee Lamb was really the biggest playmaker for the Cowboys. And losing TP, how big of an impact do you think that was, or was it just today the 49ers were the better team in your eyes?
Well, the 49ers, in my eyes, were the better team going in and during the day. But without Pollard, the Cowboys just didn't have enough playmakers. I mean, you don't want to make an excuse. Oh, we'd have beat them if we'd had that
Sure.
guy. I don't know if they would have or not.
No.
But they don't have enough playmakers without him. And so that really, as Babe said during the broadcast, it's not just losing a really talented player, but you probably lost more than half of your playbook, all of the things you were going to call because of the way he ran them. I mean, to my way of thinking, Zach, they had a good year. They played a better team pretty well most of the way. They did not have the weapons they needed once they lost Pollard, and then eventually the defense just kind of wore down.
You know, Brad, the Cowboys have been playing tight ends well all year. And so when you went into this matchup, you're thinking, George Kittle, the Cowboys will do a fine job against him. That, to me, was really kind of the difference in this football game today. I know how good the 49ers defense tackles and all that and how hard they make it for you to move the ball. I just think George Kittle was really the difference in this one today, all the plays that he was able to make.
Well, he was a big difference, but that didn't surprise me. I think that he shows continuously the ability to make those plays and looked like they were playing zones most of the time. I don't know if he had 3 or 4 big chunk plays, and I think they were in zones most of the time. But one reason that I thought that the 49ers on paper were a better team is, I mean, they have Kittle, and they have Samuel, and they have McCaffrey, and they have Ayuk, and they have Mitchell, and they've got all these guys.
Yeah.
And the Cowboys don't have all those.
All-pro left tackle too, as well.
Yeah. Tremendous job by the left tackle. So yeah, but I mean, Kittle is one of those. He's an all-star. He's a perennial all-star player, and a phenomenal blocker. I mean, I remember there was one play where they had a chance. I think it was a double-digit run after catch by Samuel, and Kearse had a beat on him, and Kittle came across the formation, found Kearse, blew him up, knocked him off Samuel, and off he goes for another 15 yards. I mean, that's just an all-around player and an exceptional one. So, I mean, I don't think you're wrong, Brian. He was a big impact on the game, but it just didn't surprise me.
Brad, how would you assess Dak's performance today?
I'm disappointed with the second interception. I thought that was a key play in the game.
Yeah.
It's in the red zone. You're going for points. You wind up giving up points, and I'm not sure what the first one. I don't know how committed Gallup was to that route. The second one, I just don't know what Dak was really looking at that made him think that there was a place to throw that ball. And now he did make some other plays, and he certainly with his legs he did, and I thought he was okay. But in the second half, it's really hard to evaluate him because he's got to have playmakers, and he didn't have. I mean, Lamb had a terrific day.
Yeah,
but Lamb's his only playmaker.
It looks like they choked Schultz in this game. I mean, they found a way to kind of keep him in wraps. But I felt like that. Talking to people around the league, Brad, the guys that had played the 49ers, they felt like that the middle of the field might be an opportunity, and I've kind of felt like that Schultz would have a little bit better game or a little better opportunity. Probably looking at the All-22, won't see that. They probably did a much better job of not allowing those balls down the middle of the field.
I think you're absolutely right, and I think that's I don't know if that's a scheme issue, but it is a function of having limited playmakers. I mean, really, if you think about it, for this team, your playmakers, besides the quarterback, are Lamb and Pollard, and then Schultz is probably your third playmaker. And then you lose Pollard, and now they can do more with Schultz. Disappointing. I mean, it wasn't going to change things, but, to see Schultz not get his second foot down there at the very end. I mean, I would like to think that they could do more than they did. So I'm with you, Brian. It'll be interesting to look at it and see what they did to take him away.
Brad, did I detect this right when you and Babe were kind of wrapping things up, that you're thinking now about this team needs to go out and look at drafting a wide receiver? Did I get that wrong or right with your assessment?
I'm not saying that's the first thing you need. You might, in fact, I'd like to see which ones are on the market.
Sure.
Because I might prefer to have a veteran, and I still am hopeful of getting something out of Jalen Tolbert
right
next year. And but if Noah Brown is your second or third option, you don't have enough talent at that position. And I think they're desperate for a wide receiver and maybe two, but I'm not sure that the draft is the best way to do. Let me see what's in the open market. Let me see what's available in free agency. I still think, well, I'm off it a little bit. There was a time about a month ago when I thought 100%. I think you and I talked about it some, Brian. I thought I was 100% that the first choice has got to be a corner.
Yeah, I was too. Trust me, I've looked at about 7 of them right now.
Yeah, this is a good corner class.
And I think they're right, and there are some good ones. But I don't think the cupboard is as bare. Bland showed me a lot. And, even though he was inactive the last couple of weeks, I think Wright shows me a little something. And now I still would like a corner, but it doesn't necessarily have to be in the first round. But I think a defensive tackle and corner and a wide receiver and a running back and maybe some depth in the interior of the offensive line, those are my top priorities. I'm going to draft a tight end somewhere probably on Saturday, which is where you get tight ends now unless you get the very best ones, because I don't think they'll be able to re-sign. I mean, I presume they'll tag Pollard, and they tagged Schultz this year, so I don't see how you're going to afford having both of them. And but I think corner and wide receiver would be, depending on what's there when their turn comes, those would be the things I think I'd be looking at.
Brad, this is probably just a really bad, unfair question for you. I hope I don't put you in a bad spot. Do you expect both coordinators to be back next year?
That's a really good question, and it doesn't put me in a bad spot. I think it depends on what offers they get, but I also think that if you're the head coach, as well as the front office, you have to evaluate if you are getting the most out of the talent you had. You need more talent.
Right.
Now, are you getting the most out of the talent you have? I would think that if you had an opportunity to retain Dan Quinn, you would want to do that, and they may or may not have that opportunity. And I think they have to very closely evaluate the extent to which the offensive staff maximize the talent that they had. I think that'll be a topic for heavy discussion.
We spoke very glowingly for the majority of the season about Brett Maher and how great he performed and kicked, but my goodness, I haven't seen the drama of a kicking situation in a football game after last week going into this week that we witnessed today. What were you thinking based every kicking situation that Brett Maher had today?
Made every field goal.
Yeah.
He can't kick it out. He's got the yips on the extra points now. Made every field goal. Has he missed a field goal?
No.
No, he hasn't.
Okay. So he's got the yips on the extra points. If they'd scored another touchdown, I'd have been shocked if they hadn't gone for 2. And, there was a time in the middle of the season, beginning of the latter third of the season, maybe even later than that, that I thought, well, when you look at the free agents and you're looking at how you're going to spend your money, then, you want to re-sign your kicker because you don't want to be going through that nonsense again. But now, I don't know that that's the case. I think now they'll be, they'll probably not sign him, maybe invite him to, I'm guessing. No, I haven't talked to anybody about this. Maybe invite him to camp, but they'll be looking for other ones.
Brad, could this have been the last rodeo for Tyron Smith?
I'm going to say not necessarily. It depends on what the money can be. How can they restructure it? I think, Brian, that he showed when he came back.
Yes.
That he can still play football.
Right.
And I think you have to sit with him and get a couple of questions answered. And one, obviously, is what are you willing to play for? Will you take a cut? Obviously, there's less in front of him than behind him. So that being said, at the very worst, he could be your swing tackle now more than ever because you now know he can play right tackle. And I'm not sure that I would, let's say it this way. I'd have a lengthy discussion, both internally and then with him, about if I could get him at the right price, I might want him to be my left tackle and just start the year like they were going to start the year.
Right.
Tyler Smith can slide in and play left guard. He can always move back outside when Tyron retires.
Yep.
But I think Tyron Smith's got good football left in him, and I would just as soon it be in the uniform that he's worn all his career.
Brad, thank you so much for all the time you've given us this year. Enjoyed all the time that we've gotten to talk with you in the post games and even in the pregame that I've filled in for Eric on those rare occasions. And have a safe travel home, and we'll do it again next year.
Thanks, boys. Look forward to it. Talk to you in August.
There he goes, the great Brad Sham, the voice of your Dallas Cowboys. 19-12, the Niners beat the Cowboys. As the Cowboys are going home. Niners will be advancing to play the Eagles in the NFC Championship game next Sunday. Brad, brought to you by Blockchain. You don't need a complicated play to bring it into the end zone. That's why you should trust the team at blockchain.com to make buying, selling, and trading crypto easy. Play smarter, not harder with blockchain.com. Brad Sham joining us there. And certainly, I do think the Cowboys, they'll have a lot of questions, and we'll have plenty of time to break that down throughout the entire offseason. Dalton Schultz, a free agent. What do you do at the wide receiver position? Zeke with, whether that's just an outright, do you move on? Mm-hmm. Do you restructure similar to the DeMarcus Lawrence situation? Pollard, do you get a new deal done?
Yeah.
Is that a franchise tag situation? Do you look in the draft to reassess the running back position? Look, you and I are both looking at players. I think we're both 80-plus guys in now. There's a lot of good backs and a lot of good tight ends.
There are a lot, and you're absolutely right. And there's the positions that the Cowboys clearly could draft early are very deep from what you and I have seen so far. So whether you're looking at wide receivers, whether you're looking at corners, those things, the tight ends, all those positions, running back, all those positions right now are looking really favorable for the Dallas Cowboys. Who will have a pick near the bottom of the board. And
I know we got a lot of texts coming in about, you can't make excuses about the lack of playmakers for the play of the quarterback. I think we've been honest. I know. Let me say this: I'm not making excuses for him, but I think that you're doing a really good job of being fair about it. But you have your concerns, and if you're a Cowboys fan, you absolutely should have your concerns. The problem you run into is what you saw Monday night and then what you saw, 6 days later? Yeah.
That's the thing that just it's maddening when you're trying to kind of figure this thing out.
Mm-hmm.
When you want to defend Dak, you point to Monday night.
Right.
When you want to talk about there needs to be some hard, tough love, criticism, whatever, it's today's game.
Exactly.
So that's the issues that I think that the fan base is looking at right now.
It's the lack of consistency.
Yeah.
And some people might have just gotten in the car, they're driving around, whatever it might be. Maybe you missed the opening segment where, I did open up and shared my feelings on
You went fire.
the poor play by Dak Prescott. And I did say he is reason number one, in my opinion, as to why the Cowboys lost the game today. He was not good enough. And as much as I want him to be that guy, because I love the human being, I love the person, I love the leader, I have serious questions if he is able to get you over that hump now, because you're looking at back-to-back years, game on the line. You've got a chance to go be that guy, to go grow your legend, and you're not able to do it, regardless of the supporting cast. Last year, maybe you had it. This year, you can question whatever it is, the circumstance around you. He hasn't been able to do that. I think the questions are fair. Last week, we saw the guy that is good enough to do it. The question remains the consistency. And at the quarterback position, if you want to be elite, if you want to be a Super Bowl winner in the NFL, you can't have those questions week to week. Yeah. I got to know what I'm getting at the quarterback one position if I want to be a Super Bowl contender. And you have doubts about that at number four right now. You do. And that's what stinks, because I don't want that to be the case. I wanted to will it into existence. But today, those 2 interceptions, there's no excuse making.
Well,
it wasn't good enough.
Yeah, it wasn't good enough. And maybe the situation that you're going to be in here in 2 weeks is that the Cowboys are going to move on from Kellen Moore. That they're going to, and heck, who knows, maybe sooner than later. You never know about these situations. I talked about Brian Schottenheimer. I think that Mike McCarthy is going to have to make some tough decisions and move on, potentially move on from some guys that that he felt he really inherited Kellen Moore, and maybe after this year he says, listen, I would like to take this in a little bit of a different direction offensively, and so let's see what happens here the next few days.
All right, we will hear from Jerry Jones. We've got Dak Prescott. We've got the rookie Tyler Smith on what was a very good rookie season from him. Plus your calls. I promise you we will hit the phone lines, and we will get more of your text reactions. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
comes 2nd and 10 for San Francisco, right to left, just starting the game. Purdy looks right, looks left. Odigizua had him, and then to finish the sack, here comes DeMarcus Lawrence. Boy, Odigizua was through there in a hurry.
Osa Odigizua finished the season really, really strong, and DeMarcus Lawrence had himself a day. Had to leave the game momentarily, came right back, and he ended up having an excellent tackle on Deebo Samuel that we thought might have ended up being one of the big defensive plays of the game, knocking San Francisco out of field goal range. If the Cowboys hadn't been able to win this one, would have preserved some points. And ultimately, unfortunately, it wasn't enough as the Niners got the win 19-12. Zach Wolchuk hanging out with the Super Bowl winning scout, Brian Broaddus. You can follow us at Zach Wolchuk, at Brian Broaddus on Twitter, 877-881-1053 on the official postgame show of the Dallas Cowboys. That is the number to call, the number to text. We'll hear from Jerry Jones here in just a moment, along with Dak Prescott. But I do want to take some of your calls to reflect back on the Cowboys season and this disappointing defeat, as it's now been 27 years and counting since the Cowboys have last made an NFC championship game. Very quickly, though, do have news regarding Tony Pollard. He suffered a fractured left fibula that will require surgery, according to multiple sources. Todd Archer, the first to tweet this out. Normally, those require a 3-month recovery. So a bad injury for Tony Pollard, a fractured left fibula that will require surgery. Certainly, thoughts and prayers go out to TP. Hated to see that. It was a big loss for the Cowboys and their offense today, and a lengthy recovery for him. But let's head out to line 2. We got Nick in McKinney. Nick, you're on the official postgame show of the Dallas Cowboys.
Good evening, guys. Good evening, Cowboy Nation. Hey, anything connected to Jason Garrett is cancerous, and I know that's kind of being harsh, but we can't have guys at the helm that was connected to Garrett. So as for the offensive coordinator, you can let him go, and the biggest name I know is Byron Leftwich. Dan Quinn's probably gone, so keep Matt Patricia away from my club and bring me Brian Flores. And as for Dak, him and Derek Carr are probably about the same. Derek Carr has some of that Garrett in him. That guy in Green Bay would be T.O. times 2,000. So just go ahead and bring me that guy in Baltimore and let another number 8 lead us to glory. And before I go, Brian, the question I got for you is, why didn't they trust 33 and 14 more? I think linebackers are our biggest concern in the draft. A long receiver. Bijan is the only person we should draft. It is a skill position, though.
Yeah, they really, it's funny. I thought with Vander Esch coming back that we would see more Clark. They just never, ever. And I asked coaches about that on staff, believe it or not, about Cox. And it felt like that every time that he made a little progress, then something else happened where they were kind of like, okay, we can't play him. And, we don't get to see, we get to watch the All-22 and things like that, but, we don't get to see the practice. We don't get to watch, is a guy busting during practice, and I felt like that, to me, Clark was going to be a guy that I thought he was going to grow every game, and it just didn't materialize. He wasn't the same player that he was. Now, again, he came back from an injury. I thought he wasn't going to play at all this season, but they just got to the point where they felt like that they, maybe it was after that Commanders game where all of a sudden, you got the crossing route with Terry McLaurin, and instead of getting a jam, or knocking McLaurin off the rail there, he let him by, and then, it's a touchdown. So I think there became some trust issues there with both him and Cox, and we'll see him get ready for the offseason, get ready for next season, and but I'm gonna be real honest with you, Zach. I hadn't seen a great linebacker. I know there's a couple that are highly rated.
I'm with you
guys, but not as highly rated as some of these corners, wide receivers. I think it's kind of a group that's kind of a little bit of a thin group when you start to talk about those linebackers.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Bijan Robinson, a heck of a talent.
Unreal.
But I don't know. It's always tough when you talk about a first-round running back, but that's a guy that's going to go in the first round. I'll tell you that. He's special. He is that different kind of talent. But there's some other backs that I think are also very good that'll go in round 2 and 3.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know if the Gibbs kid from Alabama is going to go, first round. There's some people that are already kind of talking about him as being that type of a guy. But yeah, there's some good running backs that are second, third round guys for sure.
Let's go out to Austin in Dallas. Austin, what's going on? How are you?
Not doing good, guys. That was a winnable game. I don't want to hear about lack of playmakers with Dak Prescott. The problem is if the receiver's not completely wide open, he can't make the throws. And you look at what happened today. They took Schultz away, and they forced him to make the tough throws. And continually, he doesn't make them. And last year he had 3 number 1 receivers going into the playoffs. So it's like it's time to move on from him. The only problem I had with the OC today and much all year was when Pollard went down. Why don't they have a Turpin package? I mean, the guy's electric in the open field, and I think they could have used him more when Pollard went down because he was killing them in the kick return game. So I think they could have, come up with a Turpin package, put him in space, and I didn't understand why they didn't do that, especially when Zeke's running on one leg. So that's all, guys. I think we got to move on from Dak. The 2-1-4 era needs to end with Zeke as well. So Dak and Zeke need to go and find a quarterback. Maybe not next year, but the year after in the draft. Maybe just take an L next year and get some good draft picks. So that's all I got. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate the call, Austin.
That's a fair call right there.
Yeah.
You can hear the disappointment. I understand that, and yeah, I mean his point is right about if they start to take players away from you or options away from you, are you able to adjust? They never ever came up with a Turpin package though. I mean, I was on the Cowboys break, a couple of times, and right before it was during the off week, and I'm like, when coaches get together in the off week, players go away, and then they kind of come up with creative ideas and stuff like that. We never saw anything for Turpin. We never ever saw anything that would same like, that like if you had to go to it, you're like, it would have been a total surprise if you would have seen him play, any meaningful snaps that way, with a package. They just never came up with anything for him the entire year.
No, they didn't. And I'll tell you, man, if Kevontae Turpin takes that one return to the outside, I think he has a good chance to score on that thing. Man, that
margin of error is really, really thin for this team.
Maybe another missed opportunity there. But, that's a good point. I mean, at least that's another player that you had with some speed and playmaking ability.
Yeah, I think he's right about the thing with Dak, especially if they change the coordinator.
Yeah.
Then you're in a situation now where it's one more year. Yeah, you're going to have to. It's he's the 9th or 10th highest paid quarterback in the league next year, right? So that's kind of where you're at.
Yeah, and I don't think they can. I think you got Dak for another year,
at least for another year.
But after this coming year, I do think that's when the Cowboys will consider, is it time to move on?
Yeah, and they're also in a situation too where, if you remember, he signed a shorter contract, so that window of him coming back around and taking another bite at the apple, I think that you're gonna, after next year, you're gonna have a really, really clear picture of where you're at.
You're also going to have a pretty stacked quarterback class that's kind of coming together with Caleb Williams at the top a year from now as well.
Absolutely.
So if you do want to get in the market on that, you might have some opportunities. That's something to consider. And I like the point that Nick made. I agree. I'm looking to get completely away from the Jason Garrett, Kellen Moore, and I know that Broughton Schottenheimer's in the building. That's a guy that Mike McCarthy has an affinity for.
Yeah.
And maybe that is where they turn. I don't love it. I don't think that he's a guy that has a track record that I think a lot of Cowboy fans are going to love. I'd look for something completely different out of the building. I think we've gotten some texts. What about Eric Bieniemy from Kansas City? I don't know that that's realistic. I think the Cowboys probably do fill both of those. If Dan Quinn leaves, I think it's probably a George Edwards. I think it's probably maybe a Joe Witt, unless Joe Witt goes with Dan Quinn.
Yeah. Well, you could be in a situation with the OC that if, maybe if you look at the same thing and trying to hire a buddy or somebody because he hired Dan Quinn. He hired Dan Quinn that way. He hired Dan Quinn. He very easily could have brought George Edwards up, and that could have been, that everybody would have been. Matter of fact, until the Slater report came out, about the locker room stuff, that was again when the Mike Nolan things were going on. Jerry, I believe, was going to fire Mike Nolan and elevate George Edwards And then all of a sudden the Slater report came out and Jerry's like, listen, I'm not going to let the media dictate how I'm operating my team. So the Slater report hit at the wrong time for Jerry to make that changes. But if he goes outside the building, that could be very interesting because it worked with Dan Quinn.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go personally.
Yeah.
Not a retread kind of like a Brian Schottenheimer is a guy that was constantly kind of ridiculed from an old, stale, run heavy.
Well, and Dan Quinn could very well take Brian Schottenheimer with him.
Yeah.
If he goes to the next job.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
Because as he's interviewing for these jobs, he's got to let this general manager okay, who are you having an idea as your coordinators? And that's where, general managers will say, well, listen, I'm not interested in Brian Schottenheimer. But I know Mike McCarthy is. Mike McCarthy, one of his, I think Paul Hackett was his guy. And then Marty Schottenheimer, who's Brian's dad, was a guy that,
gotcha. So the relationships
there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Of course, the phone line's brought to you by AT&T, the official 5G innovation partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Appreciate you if you're waiting on hold. We will get to you, I promise, here on the official postgame show of the Dallas Cowboys. Love all the text interaction we're getting as well. We'll hear from the owner and GM of your Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones, Dak Prescott, Tyler Smith. We got tons of locker room sound as well as the Cowboys season comes to a heartbreaking end, 19-12 at Levi Stadium over against the 49ers. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
3rd and 1. Shotgun. Snap is back. Prescott throws it outright. Caught by Schultz for a first down. And,
clock is running.
Oh, they're not giving him the out of bounds. The clock's running at the 24.
What a bizarre sequence there at the end of the game. Really, both Cowboys' final possessions were rather poor. From the play calling to the execution, all of it was disheartening. And now we're going to be stuck with that disgusting taste in our mouth until next year. Now, that is the beauty of football, that we go into the offseason and we get to enjoy looking forward to the draft and rebuilding, and you and I both love that aspect of it.
We do.
And that will be fun, and then before we know it, we'll blink and we'll be in Oxnard for training camp. And we get to, have our hopes rebuild, and then we do it all over again. Football will be back into our lives before we know it. But this moment, this feeling right here, this hurts. And I think I can speak for the rest of Cowboys Nation, where we're kind of sick and tired of having this same damn result. And hopefully one year we will be able to celebrate at the top of that mountain again. And eventually you'd think that that'll happen. But we will keep waiting and thinking maybe next year will be that year. 19-12, the Niners beat our Dallas Cowboys as the Cowboys season has come to an end. Dak Prescott talking to the media after this divisional round postseason defeat.
This loss hurt more than last year. Just talk about it now today. Disappointing in the locker room.
Yeah, it hurts. Very, very disappointed. We weren't able to come out this one. Disappointed in my play. Disappointed for the guys in the locker room. Special team, really is. Guys that do things the right way, prepare the right way, believe in each other, a lot of love. It's unfortunate. It sucks.
Can you take us through both picks?
Yeah, the first one, I guess you just hitched one too many times. I guess MG, understandably hitching 3 times, thought I was going to go on a scramble, and the guy just came back to the ball, made a play. I've got to throw that one away or use my feet, get out of the pocket. And then on the second one, nickel squeezed. Tried to throw a loaded CD, but I mean he was able to make a play on it, tip it up in the air, and tip it to the mic. Just 2 throws that I can't have. You can't have in the playoffs. You can't have when you're trying to beat a team like that. You can't have on the road. And, no excuses for that. Those 2 are 100% on me.
Take us through the emotion right now. I know disappointed, hurt, Jared said sick, but what's going on?
Yeah, just disappointed. As I said, I mean, guys that played their asses off, defense who gave us an opportunity to win this game, who played hard against a really, really good offense, a really good team. And for us to only put up the points that we did, that's unacceptable. And it starts with me, and I've got to be better. I mean, that's no other way to sugarcoat it.
Tim Cowlishaw, Dallas Morning News. We've talked about the interceptions, and you've said they're going to stop, and in a way they never did. Does that just baffle you that they continued the way they did this year?
Yeah, it's very frustrating. Something I've got to get in the offseason, take a look at all of them. As I said before, they all have their own story, but 2 tonight, as I said, unacceptable. I can't put the ball in jeopardy like that, whether they're tipped up in tight throws or whether I'm late on a stop route. Just can't happen. And the number that it's gotten to is ridiculous. And I can promise that the number will never be this again. I can promise that.
Did you think even with 3 minutes to go still you had a chance?
1,000%. 1,000%. When you prepare the way we do, and you put in all the work that we have and time that we have, especially for those situations, I mean, up until even the last play when we're getting in our pitch it around mode, you've got hope. Things that, as I said, that we've put in time and effort into, and I like being in those positions. I just wasn't able to get anything going.
Dak Archer of the ESPN. This is the 3rd time you have been to this round and unable to advance. What has to happen for you guys to take that next step to get to the championship round and go on further?
Yeah, I mean, I've got to play better than I did tonight. Simple as that. Simple as that. I mean, they're all independent. Can't take one from the other or think about that. But all I can think about is right now in this game and how disappointed it is, how disappointed I am in my play, how disappointed I am for the guys in the locker room who played their asses off, and we weren't able to get it done.
Yeah, Edward, ESPN, the loss of Tony Pollard, who was one of your most explosive players, the guy who seemed like he was on schedule to get a lot of opportunities in this game. How devastating a loss was that in the first
Yeah, that hurt. Just a guy that brings so much to our offense, brings so much to our team. His energy on the sideline in the huddle, the way to get guys going. He's a special teammate, a special player, and obviously, that one hurt. Hurt us. Wasn't able to create as many explosive plays as we planned. I'm sure he would have been a big part of some of those had he not gotten hurt.
Jack, Jerry said he thinks that you give this team the edge, that nothing about the turnovers has changed that, and that he wants to be back in this position with you. What goes through your mind when you hear that confidence?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that we'll be back in this position. It's just about winning. No doubt at all. I mean, what we've done as an organization and taking a step, and it all sucks right now. It all sucks. Don't get me wrong, but there's no doubt when you talk to the guys in the locker room, you talk to the men that have put in this time, the pillars of this team have to get some guys back. But there's no doubt that we'll be back, and that gives me confidence, gives anybody in that locker room confidence, I hope.
Calvin Watkins, Dallas Morning News. I feel like Curse was fighting back tears in the locker room, and how really emotional is this for you guys? I'm sure you have a lot of confidence that you will be playing next week.
Very emotional. I'm sure he wasn't the only one, and it shows you what it means to him. Shows you what it means to this team, what we thought of each other, what we thought of our opportunity to go and win it all. Didn't plan to prepare for this. Didn't have anywhere in my mind that I'd be doing this press conference with the loss right now, and it just hurts.
Tracking with what we're still talking, since you've been a starter, Dak, you guys have been really good. Really good regular season team, lots of wins. This is the one game that's been your bugaboo. Any idea what's preventing you guys from getting over that proverbial hump?
If I had the answers, we would have won tonight, honestly. Too early, too soon. And I promise you we will, though. And my time playing in this team for this organization, we will. And, it sucks that obviously, it's 365 days away to get back to this position, but we've got to take it day by day, step by step, and that's what I do. I know that's who I am. I'll respond the right way, and as I said, when we get this team aligned, the guys that we get back, coaches, we'll do what's necessary to be right back here and win it next time.
Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott after a 19-12 loss. I'm sure it was a very emotional locker room, and it hurts. I mean, it's gutting when you lose a game like this, and for a fan base, and we've experienced this, and it does sting constantly not being able to get past this round. But Dak talked about the interceptions, and he said it's not going to happen again next year. It won't happen like that. But this is the first. I mean, it's just
I was seriously, and I wasn't laughing at Dak. I was just laughing at that. It seems like that every press conference he has to stand up there, every post game he has to stand up there and address. And now it's not going to happen again. It sucks. I can't put the ball in harm's way.
Corrected. I
got to, and as perfect of a game as he played on Monday night, he reverted back to a guy that had to stand up there and majority of these post game press conferences, even if they won, and had to address turnovers. And you wonder if having, better quality at wide receiver, is that going to be the difference? Is it going to be them figuring out what the running game's all about? Is it simple as getting Terrence Steele back and moving Tyron Smith and moving Tyler Smith, or doing whatever you have to do? This team will be remarkably different when you look at it. And it could be different on the coaching staff too.
Sure.
But whatever Dak says, you kind of say, okay, man, I trust you. Because Dak is a believable guy. But the questions, it's every game that you get that question of, I've got to be better. I can't turn the ball over. I can't. And we talked about it in the pregame. And then we even talked about it in the at halftime. If Dak turns the ball over, this team is not good enough to win.
No.
They can't.
Nope.
They just can't. And especially the way that they give up points when he's driving the ball, and who knows if they would have made a damn field goal. I mean, who knows? But, they also could have made a play to maybe get 6 points out of that. It just seems like some of his worst turnovers are when they're driving the ball. And let's be honest too. He's had some interceptions that have gone towards Michael Gallup. And so something needs to be figured out there as well.
Yes.
About that, because
7 games this year, Michael Gallup held under 25 yards receiving.
Yeah. That's
or
not
less.
good. And some of Dak Prescott's interceptions have gone that direction.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Dak brought to you by the Salvation Army. Love Beyond. We'll hear from Jerry Jones. We'll hear from you. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Prescott under center. It's an eye right formation. He will keep it, roll right, throw it underneath. Schultz at the 1, and he walks in. Touchdown, Dallas.
Well, there you go. That's your drive of the game. Brought to you by Ford F-Series, the best-selling truck in Texas. That's a 14-play, 74-yard touchdown drive that took 7 minutes and 41 seconds off the clock. Ended with that Dak Prescott touchdown strike to Dalton Schultz on 1st and goal from the 9 or 4-yard line. It was the Cowboys' lone touchdown of the game. And 19-12, unfortunately, the Cowboys unable to get that last score, which Mike McCarthy told us they would have gone for 2. They would have gone for the win there had they have been able to do it. If you missed it, Tony Pollard, who left the game at the end of the first half, has suffered a fractured left fibula that will require surgery, according to multiple sources. Normally that requires a 3-month recovery time. Todd Archer reporting on that. And that is terrible news for Tony Pollard, who had an outstanding season this year. By the way, Dalton Schultz with that touchdown catch had 3 touchdown receptions this postseason, the most receiving touchdowns in a single postseason by any Cowboys tight end. Possibly last game we see Dalton Schultz play as a Dallas Cowboys. He will be a free agent to be, and there's a lot of looming offseason decisions for the Dallas Cowboys. So we will, have all offseason to discuss and break that all down. Cowboys general manager and owner Jerry Jones with the media after this 19-12 defeat at the hands of the San Francisco 49ers.
They beat the best of us tonight, and I want to give them again. They played well. They were coached well. And I thought defensively it was just that. It was 2 really outstanding defensive teams giving it the best they got. You would know how proud I am of these guys in here. That's a good team. We, frankly, turnovers do settle the scores with games like that. And I'm so disappointed for our fans, and this felt good. This felt good today, felt good with the team. But San Francisco had something to say about that. But we've got a locker room full of sick players and coaches to go along with the literally hundreds of thousands of Cowboy fans that are sick.
Jerry, obviously, you
mentioned
the 2 interceptions for Dak Prescott. What did you make of his performance today?
Well, I think that turnovers, we got a turnover back. Turnovers, we're going to make the difference. I think we maybe 1-2 or 1-2 in the top 3 getting turnovers. And actually, if you looked at the score and looked at all the stats and looked at everything, the extra turnovers, probably the difference. And our penalties were seriously up, and you guys know all the stats. But our team is one that could have handled the situations on anything we had tonight. We came up short. We're sick. We're sick.
What did you think?
Sick.
What did you think of the possession there with about 3 minutes left, where you guys went 3 and out so quickly and had to punt it away?
Well, they had a lot to say about it, but they it appears to me we're schemed pretty good out there by their defensive coaches. We schemed them pretty good too. So that was a big difference. We had it there for us. Probably right up until the last 3 or 4 minutes, we had it there for us to go get a step farther to the championship. But still, I'm sick. Don't have really anything material or important to listen to say. That I had a different ending to this thing playing. Thanks, guys.
You mentioned before the Tampa Bay game that Mike McCarthy.
Did you feel this team was a little better suited to break through that divisional ceiling that you've been unable to crack for a while?
Well, I thought this team with Dak at quarterback, I thought we had a chance to get to and compete at the top level in this tournament. I really did, and that was our edge here tonight. I thought the quarterback and the experience of the quarterbacks, they might have had a little edge and an area there, but still, I thought our quarterbacks were the edge, and we got after that and tried to expose that, and we, to their credit, they made some plays. We could easily, at any time, with some of the things that happened to us as a team this year, like turnovers, we could have at any time in my mind used that, or had to play 2 or 3 of those throws that Dak made or had a chance to make, could have developed into something big for us and made a difference in this game. But I thought we were good suited to come in here and win this thing. And frankly, I wouldn't say surprised. I'd say just real disappointed that we maybe couldn't make something happen, even right down to the last real solid series where we had about 4 minutes left.
Jerry, you said before the Tampa Bay game that nothing that happened that night could impact your thoughts on head coach Mike McCarthy. Does a result like this change anything in your mind with him?
No, not at all. And their decision for our kicker was exonerated with his field goal in my mind, and I'm proud for him. But this is very sickening.
You know how hard it is to get as far as you were 27 years ago. You've talked about how you don't have time to have a bad time. I know you said you're sick, but what are the emotions right now, wondering when you'll be able to get back to that?
When I look around in my life at a lot of the missing faces that aren't doing anything, they're gone, or the missing faces that are doing something but they're not in the NFL. I'm thrilled to have this face in the NFL. It feels, I'm blessed. And I'm disappointed as I can be, but I am in no way taking a chance on complaining about getting a chance to do this. But this hurts.
It hurts. It certainly does. Jerry Jones, owner and general manager, there with the media afterwards.
Yeah, none of us are guaranteed tomorrow, And I think, Steven said it when he was on with us on Friday. Jerry talks about that, and so you don't know when you're going to have this opportunity to do this again.
Sure.
And that's, he, as the general manager, he said it. He felt like he had a team that was good enough to win this game today. He was looking probably at his quarterback. I'm going to say probably. He was looking at his quarterback, and he's thinking, man, my quarterback played great on Monday night. And he came out today, and he didn't play great. And he's talking about some of the same things that we've been talking about, or the fan base has been talking about. The interceptions, the turnovers, he's thinking about that, here he is, their defense against a really good offense, gave up 19 points, gave up 6 points off turnovers, so you're sitting there thinking, okay, if we can hold San Francisco to 19 points with a rookie quarterback with as good as they are on offense, we're probably going to find a way to win this football game, and when it doesn't happen, and now he has to wait, another 5-6 months before this thing, season even gets going again, then, that's kind of where it's tough for him. And so, he's sad for the fan base, but he also realizes that his quarterback, who he thought was going to be able to outduel a rookie quarterback, would have been good enough to win today.
Right.
And it didn't happen that way. And that's the word which you get, sick, is what he's talking about.
No, and I think that's pretty much the reflection of how we all feel after this one. And look, it's the ultimate team sport. But oftentimes, that's why the quarterback position is viewed as the most important, maybe in all of sports. And in situations like this,
well, the owner general manager made some decisions about his team this year. he made a decision about getting rid of Amari Cooper.
Sure.
And people will say, well, heck, Brian, he lost a wild card game last year with 3 top, wide receivers. What's any difference? But, could that have helped? Were the lack of weapons, that's what we're all talking about right now, lack of weapons. But, you got rid of Amari Cooper and, you moved on. You determined that you were going to pay Michael Gallup coming off an injury. There's some decisions this front office made personnel-wise when it came to the weapons that, might have handicapped. The one thing I think that's really, really good about the whole thing, though, if you want to be honest, by Amari Cooper not being here, you learned a lot about CeeDee Lamb.
You got a number one there.
You learned right there. You've got a guy that you battle him, we're good to go.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we will also hear from CD. We got Micah Parsons, more of your calls as well. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
got pushed, and he reached up and caught the ball at the 45-yard line of San Francisco.
That's our what a play of the game. What a play it was from CeeDee Lamb, whose 10 catches are the most by a Cowboys receiver in a postseason game since Michael Irvin had 12 catches in the 1994 NFC Championship game, also at San Francisco, back in 1995 of January the 15th.
I kind of thought you were going to say against the Green Bay Packers.
Ooh.
One of those, it felt like those guys used to just, it's like everybody would make a play on you that day.
Yeah.
Good teams back then.
Our What a Play of the Game brought to you by Whataburger. The Whataburger breakfast burger is back. It's not a burrito, it's a burger.
It's a burger.
A fresh 100%
really
beef
good
patty,
burger, man.
melted cheese, dude. It's delicious. It's got hash brown sticks, fresh cracked egg, bacon, and creamy pepper sauce. Available from 11 to 11 and just for a limited time. So get that deliciousness while you can. All right, let's go back out to the phone. Zach Wolchuk hanging out with Brian Broaddus after a disappointing 19-12 49ers win over our Dallas Cowboys. Let's hit up Kevin, who's calling in from Illinois. Appreciate your patience. Kevin, what's going on, man?
How you doing tonight? Thank you for
better.
taking my call. Yeah, I know. I agree. First thing I'd like to say is I heard Jerry Jones given his interview. He's one of the main problems why we cannot overcome or even try to go to a Super Bowl, because he wants to have full control of everything. As for Dak Prescott, he is not our quarterback. He cannot get over that hurdle because of the picks, everything he does. It just makes it hard for us to believe in him.
What were we thinking about him on Monday, my friend? Monday night, what were we thinking about him?
Monday night, I still was not fully believed that he can bring us to a promised land, only because he beat up on an 8-9 team.
Okay. But a team that had okay. I see what you're saying. So you don't believe in the guy at all, is right? Am I getting that right?
No, yeah, not at all.
And you're saying that the owner's the reason why they can't get over the hump, because he wants control.
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
Yes,
Is that
indeed.
because of personnel decisions, or what decisions there?
All personnel. Yeah, only because, like I said, for him, it's my way. It's my way or no way.
Well,
and
this
that's why
was
we're in the position.
this was a Final Four team, wasn't it, this year? It was a Final Four team, right? They got the Final Four. You feel like the roster is pretty good, right?
You know what? We were just by luck.
Okay.
That's what I want to call it, luck.
Okay. Appreciate the call, man. Thanks
for the call, Kevin.
Yeah. Hope you have a good New Year, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that there are some fans that will always blame Jerry. Jerry is the one constant for the 27 years since
slow hanging fruit, but go
the
for
last
it.
conference championship game. That's the one constant. But yeah, I mean, the Cowboys have had a lot of good players come and go. And I think that ultimately he does deserve credit as well for that.
You know what? I mean, because you're sitting at the bottom of the draft in the first round, and you take a chance on an offensive tackle from Tulsa. And all of a sudden, you're thinking, and you're basically picking a second-round player.
Yeah, a lot of people ripped him for the pick, too.
A lot of people, and that kid played his ass off.
Damn good.
Yeah, and he could have drafted, Chase on from that went to Jacksonville. So he took CeeDee Lamb, right? His board said take Lamb. And, everybody's thinking, well, they're going to take Chase on here. There's no way in hell they're taking CeeDee Lamb.
Sure.
They took CeeDee Lamb, I don't know, man. I mean, to me, if you want to get on, Jerry, I can't stop you, trust me. I understand where you're at. But to say, this team got into the Final Four, it just wasn't good enough to beat a team that it really, really has got this game was going to be about how you matched up against them with all their weapons.
Yeah.
You really did a good job against this team other than George Kittle.
Yeah.
And their defense played better than their defense.
Yeah.
That's where I think, your defense was good.
Defense played well enough to win the game.
Their defense was great.
Their defense played great.
Good.
No doubt.
A lot of those guys that, you drafted and signed and stuff like that. So I don't know. I'm just kind of, I'm not trying to defend the guy. I'm just saying, to me, I'm just trying to understand that logic.
Sure.
That way. And I'm not trying to be mean to the guy either, too.
Yeah.
I just want to know.
Yeah.
I don't want to cause a problem for you.
All right, let's go to AJ in San Diego. AJ, what's going on? You're on the official postgame show of the Dallas Cowboys.
Hey, good evening, Joe. Well, first of all, thank you so much for all you guys do. It's been a fantastic season listening to you guys pre and post game, so I really wanted to thank you for everything you guys bring to Cowboys Nation.
Appreciate it.
I wasn't sure which guy was the 7th-round pick and which one was in the 7th year.
Yeah.
Watching the game, honestly. Yeah, Prescott had a great Monday, but this has been the problem, has been the consistency of it.
Sure.
And hearing him at his season-ending press conference, you could have played that press conference after the Jacksonville game, after the Green Bay game, after last year's game.
Yep.
And the thing that frustrates me the most is this is now 4 opportunities within 3 minutes, game on the line against the 49ers. Last year, 2 drives, this year, 2 drives. Absolutely nothing out of it. I get it. That's a great human being. But I think his words are starting to ring hollow. It's starting to sound a little disingenuous, and I really
appreciate the call, AJ. You're breaking up just a little bit, so we got to go ahead and let you go. But I get the point you're making, and I agree with you. You know, I echoed the same sentiments to start the show.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is,
as
I want Dak to be that dude, and I love the human being, I love the person, I love the leadership. There's a lot of reasons, and we've seen great play from Dak. Monday night was one of those.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is now you've had back-to-back postseasons, chance to go do it. To your point, and he hasn't been able to do it. And in my gut, in my heart, after 31 years of being a Cowboys fan and growing up here and watching this team and in these games, when the Cowboys got the ball back with 3 minutes to go, and it's okay, now's the time for Dak to be the legend drive, did I really believe in my gut that he was going to go and do it? In my heart, if I'm being honest, the answer was no.
Yeah, but you said that when you looked at me and says, this isn't going to happen today. You know, and I'm like, you know what? I can understand why fans are the way they are now. I really can. I just don't think they're going to move on from Dak.
I don't either.
I don't either. 2023, I think now you start to talk about if we're in the same situation, and to the caller's point that we're still having, Jerry had enough of the turnovers.
Yeah.
Jerry had enough. You could tell the word sick. You know, he wanted to use another word, but he just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I think you get through 2023. If you're in a situation where you don't have success, then you have to think about, okay, this team will need to, and there's a lot of these organizations that are moving on from quarterbacks. You'll have opportunities to move on and get a quarterback if that's what you want to do.
More of your calls plus sound from the locker room after this 19-12 Cowboys season-ending defeat at Levi Stadium to the 49ers. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Cowboys think they've got it. Everybody's waiting for the men in the stripes. Spotter Jake Goldberg said he thought he saw Kelvin Joseph force the ball out.
I thought I saw the Cowboys on it.
Van Der Esch and Overton say it's the Cowboys' ball, and I've never known either of them to lie. But so does Bill Vinovich, and Damone Clark comes out with the ball. There's the first real break for the Cowboys.
Yep.
That is our defensive stop of the game, brought to you by Reliant and NRG Company. How about that punt by Brian Anger? And it was recovered by Damone Clark.
Yeah.
Forced by Kelvin Joseph. A tremendous play. You think, like, all of a sudden, oh, my goodness, here we go. It is 9-6. Cowboys get a big break. They end up getting a field goal on it to tie it at 9. And that was a momentum shifter. Problem was you just needed one more, and the Cowboys had a chance maybe with Diggs, hit him in the hands. He dropped that interception. A couple other opportunities. The defense did a great job of getting pressure on Brock Purdy. They just needed one more, maybe turnover to try and even it out at 2 apiece. Just didn't happen, but that was it. Brought to you by Reliant and NRG Company. And Cowboys, unfortunately, they had some opportunities, weren't able to make the most of it, and they fall 19-12 to the 49ers. Right now, though, let's pause 10 seconds to allow stations to identify themselves across the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Your turn it on, leave it on. Home of America's team is 105.3 The Fan.
Hello, baby.
KRLD FM and HD1, Dallas-Fort Worth.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Zach Wolchuk alongside Brian Broaddus. Micah Parsons, who certainly was disruptive in this game, as it was billed the two, maybe arguably the two best defensive players in the sport right now, Micah and Nick Bosa for the Niners, the two front runners for Defensive Player of the Year. I think Bosa's probably going to end up winning the award, but Micah, I think, had 3 or 4 pressures in this game, was very effective. He caught up with the media following this defeat.
How do you come back? What's the fight you show next year?
Well, we'll see who we got back after this year. We understand this team won't ever be the same. People won't be here no more. You try to fix the mistakes that kept hurting us all year. The league is very repetitive on, things that hurt us early on. It's the same things that hurt us now. So we got to find a way to fix it, or we're going to keep being in the same situation.
You guys ran out of gas second half?
I don't think we really ran out of gas. I mean, how can someone say that? You take away from things. I think we held them to 1 touchdown. I mean, if you tell me we come in this game and holding them up to under 20 points, and if you take away the turnover points, you holding them to under 15, you win the game. So I really want to say that. I think everybody left it out there, but they made bigger plays.
That would make it more frustrating if you felt like you get everything that you're supposed to do, you still get it done.
Exactly. I mean, going to this game, we understood that they wanted to get their players out to open space. We contained Debo. We contained McCaffrey for the most part. But, like I said, they made more plays. We limited, we tackled, we ran, but they made more plays.
What was McCarthy's message to the team after the game?
Just that he feels for us. I mean, there's no feeling like this. Like, I hurt for the guys. I hurt for the fans. I hurt for myself. How much I pushed through this year to try to get this title, but it's just not enough. I really give my all every week for these guys, and they give it back to me, but it just wasn't enough.
Thank you.
Micah Parsons after the 19-12 loss. He's right. You hold Christian McCaffrey to 35 yards rushing and 3.5 yards a carry.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't even have – he was averaging, I think, 120 yards roughly a game total, all-purpose yards.
Sure.
He didn't sniff 100 yards total.
No.
Today.
No.
George Kittle, yes. George Kittle had the big plays in the second half. He still had 5 catches, 95 yards. You had Debo, 4 catches for 45. He had 11 yards rushing. Last year, Debo was a guy that destroyed you on the ground. The defense played well enough to win this game. I think all of us this week leading up to it, turnovers, yes, that resulted in 6 points for the 49ers. You take that out, then that's even less points allowed. But 19 points, if you hold San Francisco to that total, it should have been enough to win the football game. I don't think Micah certainly was putting blame on the offense, but you would have liked to think that the Cowboys offense, even against San Francisco's number 1 defense in the NFL, would have been able to put up 20 points in this game.
Man, I think he was pointing out that it's the same things that happen, the turnovers.
Read between the lines a little bit?
Yeah, no, Micah is always one of those guys I think is very, very honest. It was a very emotional game. He's thinking, we hold these guys to under 20 points. Our offense has to be good enough. And, we give them the ball back the special teams gives them a ball back and they kick a field goal. They couldn't, they only had one drive really in the whole game. So, yeah, I mean, he's saying that. He's saying it's the same thing that we talk about. They lost the Jacksonville game on a turnover. I mean, they had a couple of them in that game. Sure, the defense was not great that day. Gave up a lot of points, blew a lead. They blew a lead against Green Bay. But overall, in this game, you go into a playoff game and you hold somebody to 19 points, you're probably thinking that, okay, I'm going to score 3 touchdowns and we're going to find a way to win this thing.
Yeah.
And I think he clearly was making a and I don't think it was anything, he's pointing out that, they,
I mean, without saying it, he said it.
Without saying
he's right.
said it. Yeah. And he's not
right.
wrong. Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
They held the best,
he's not wrong.
One of the best, if not the best running teams in the NFL. I mean, their scheme is so difficult to defend to 113 yards as a team.
The guy that killed him was San Francisco's defense won them this game today. It wasn't their offense that won them this game. It was their defense that won them this game. They held Dallas in check. And that's what Micah Parsons, I think, is pointing out. He's like, hell, we did our job too. And now we have to, now we get 6 points put on us because of 2 turnovers.
Yep.
They could have made a stop. I mean, when they got the ball right before half, they could have made a stop, but, they didn't. But to hold, if you'd have told me the 49ers, you're going to hold them to 19 points, I'm kind of feeling like you're going to win that football game.
All right, let's sneak in one more call here. Let's go to Colin in Athens. Colin, what's going on? You're on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Hey, how y'all doing tonight?
Doing all right, man. How are you?
Man, I'm doing good. Game-wise, defense played well, other than that one drop pick that probably could have, had a little bit of a momentum swing in the game. Special teams played good. I think if Turpin would have, made a move to the left, to the right, instead of running straight into the kicker, that would have been another 6 points towards us. But what it comes back down to is Dak and his interceptions. He had multiple games this year with multiple interceptions, pick sixes. Zeke's not hitting the holes like he used to. If Pollard would have stayed in that game, that would have helped out a lot. So I think, if we can get Zeke out, get Dak out, after the 2023 season, I think it'll help out this team a lot.
Thanks for the call, Colin. The Zeke decision, or whatever happens with Zeke, will be fascinating.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of love for Ezekiel Elliott in that building. And he certainly has been effective for this team in his role. But you can see the difference in explosion, in ability to hit the hole with burst. And I think we were all watching it and thinking, man, I understand being a little hesitant to put a rookie Malik Davis out on the field in this moment, in this heightened situation, but you need a guy with a little bit of juice, and Zeke just doesn't quite have that right now at this stage in his career. Not to say he's not still a useful back, but there will be a decision to be made, much like the restructure that DeMarcus Lawrence had, on what to do with Ezekiel Elliott this offseason.
No, I think you're absolutely right about that. I think that, to me, there's too many players in the draft. Now, you'll have to see what the cap ramifications are if you cut Zeke, But if you can get him to take the similar deal that you got from from Tank, maybe lower the number and add a year or two there, I think that's kind of the direction you need to go. If in fact that they want to still keep him on the squad.
Oh man, that's going to be a fascinating decision to see.
Well, they've got a lot. They've got a lot of decisions they have to make.
Schultz,
Pollard. I mean, they've got a lot of decisions that they're going to have. Van Der Esch. Yeah, they've got a lot of decisions. This team is going to look remarkably different when we get to the
coordinators.
Yeah, we get to the first OTA practice.
Yep,
it's going to be a different looking team. For sure.
All right, we got our player of the game. We'll hear from CeeDee Lamb. Plus, we'll put a bow on this one. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
the 30. Broke a tackle, down at the 28.
Our player of the game, CeeDee Lamb. What a fantastic game he had in this one, as he was really the only star. 10 catches, 117 yards, the long of 46, which was also our play of the game on 13 targets, as he had the most catches since Michael Irvin. We gave you that stat earlier. CeeDee Lamb, our player of the game, and CeeDee Lamb caught up, got to speak after this one as well.
How difficult is it when you know it's the finality of it hits at this moment? What do you mean? Just the fact that you lost season. Yeah.
I mean, sucks. Excuse me, sucks. Kind of short of our goal, like 2 games short. I mean, at the end of the day, we got to take it for what it is, be better next year. Simple as that. I'm tired of saying it, but it is what it is.
What were the issues today as you saw them in terms of struggling on offense?
I don't know. We didn't. I think they want to the turnover battle, of course, and you can't really in this type of situation, if you will. Turnovers matter. You know, no matter how you put it, offense, defense, special teams, regardless. We didn't score enough points, and yeah.
From what you could see, what happened on the 2 interceptions?
One was good defense. The second one was on me, of course. Didn't see the guy. He jumped it, tipped pass. Fred did a great job of not letting it hit the ground. And first one, I don't even know what happened. I was running a route and I turned around and I saw he had the ball.
You say the second one was on you. What should you have done differently there?
We lost the game, as you can see.
CeeDee, your quarterback's going to hear a lot of criticism for this game. Do you think it's going to be merited or deserved?
I mean, he was going to get criticized regardless, no matter how he played. Unless he didn't throw 2 or 0 interceptions. If he'd have threw 0 interceptions, everybody would have been on his coattail. Just because he threw picks, everybody's going to be on him. That's fine. Everybody throws picks. But he plays for Dallas Cowboys. He's number 4. He's our starting quarterback. So that's what comes with it. I'm with my boy, and he knows that. So it is what it is. We're gonna work.
What is the overall emotion?
A couple guys are banged up. We lost the game, and we fell short of our goal. It's tough sled.
Can you say you've won 12 games, you get to the divisional round again? Can you say you had a good season, or just not feel like that?
Well, definitely we had a good season, but enough of that. We gotta show up in the playoffs.
Got to show up in the playoffs. I think he echoes the sentiments of the fan base as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. He's he's got his quarterbacks back. He took the blame for the route that I could say Ward was in zone coverage, and you see him drop off in order to go make the play. Now it looked like to me that CeeDee was trying to stop in order to make the play. Maybe he saw it was zone and you sit down in the zone, but yeah, he's taking the blame on that one. But man, I tell you what, that when the ball probably left Dak's hand, he probably didn't think that Jimmy Ward was going to play off, leave his man and go make that play. But yeah, it happens, and he's right. They had a good season. You win a playoff game. You win a playoff game on a road, which they hadn't done in forever. I was at the last one 30 years ago. I was a young man then. Now I'm an old man. So yeah, it's unfortunate. The team is going to look a lot different, but that's part of it now. It's when you lose these playoff games, the season just completely comes to a thud.
Yep.
And tomorrow it'll be even worse. They'll fly home tonight. Those guys will all, kind of talk to each other, see what their plans are for the offseason. But you'll know that, a lot of those guys won't be on that plane with you anymore. And that's the hard thing about it as a player, that it's not going to be the same group going forward, because they probably felt like if they could have got this game to Philadelphia, they had a chance to go to the Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
That's probably the thinking that they're at right now.
No, it's gutting. It is. Anytime you lose these, and we've felt this, we've become accustomed to this feeling far too often, and it hurts. But the beauty of the NFL is we'll turn around and we'll be back in training camp in August, and we'll be able to do it again. But it's sad that this will be our last one. We were hoping to do it next week for an NFC Championship game, but always want to give a big thank you to the people that make this happen behind the scenes. Peyton Russell, Larry Flores, Ruben Portillo, of course, Joey Erickson, Tim Collins, Gavin Spittle, Alec Medford as well. Always a pleasure to work with you, Brian Broaddus.
Well, thank you.
Eric Chiafalo and all those that listen and hang out with us every week. We appreciate you rocking with us. And sorry that this didn't end the way that we wanted it to, which would be in Phoenix, Arizona for the Super Bowl and the Cowboys' quest for 6. But that's why we do this and why we love sports is we'll get the hope back up and we'll do it again next year. But Cowboys did get a playoff win, which was exciting. And they played a hell of a game today, just came up short. 19-12. Cowboys lose to the 49ers. And we'll be back next year. Hugs and hand pounds, everybody. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.